Welcome to Brownsville Minute, a community-conscious conversation and a platform that provides information, wellness, love, and unity all on a digital platform. And our goal is to try to make sure that our community residents are informed, conscious, and that we are connecting the dots on a virtual platform. The Brownsville Minute is designed for everyone. Please join us with the Brownsville Minute. Well, hello there. It is really wonderful to have you back joining us for another episode of the Brownsville Minute. I am really excited to have you join us today for a wonderful episode that will help us to learn more about the importance and impact that small businesses have had, but also thinking about how the economy can grow in the future, even though we have been through this process, specifically with small businesses. My name is Anita Pierce, and I am the owner of 11375. The Brownsville Minute is a platform where we have conscious conversations that focus on specific issues that impact residents of East Brooklyn, with a targeted focus of residents within Ocean Hill, Brownsville, and also East New York. Within this platform, we gear information towards you, the resident, the small business, the community stakeholder, and those topics that are really important to you. We know that health, finance, growing the economy through entrepreneurship, civic engagement are all things that are critically important to the wealth and wellness of our communities. I am excited because we are going to be focusing on deepening our community connections, but just from the perspective of working with local businesses. We are now a year, almost a year and a half within a pandemic. And what we do know is that throughout this process, that small businesses, particularly businesses of color, have been impacted, just like all small businesses. But there's a specific focus and impact that has happened, particularly within businesses in uh, East New York, Brownsville, entire East Brooklyn, and wanted to just really have a conversation about, what recovery could look like with one of the newest members of Brownsville. I am really excited and happy to discuss with the um, executive director of the Pitkin BID, Miss Tiera Mack, who will help us to unpack and really understand the role of the BID in this recovery going forward. So I'm excited to welcome Miss Tiera Mack. Welcome, Tiera. How are you?
I'm doing well. I hope you're doing well as well.
I am. It's so good to have you join the broadcast. So let's jump right into it. So you have been at the bid for a few months now. Tell us a little bit more about who you are, a little bit more about the gifts and talents that you bring to this organization.
Okay, I'm from Buffalo, New York. I moved to New York City about almost 8 years ago, to be 8 years in September. I have I started a master's degree in urban planning in Buffalo. I had a family emergency, so I ultimately stopped the program, but I went on to complete the program at Hunter College in New York City some years later. The reason why I went back is because I was at the Utica station and the elevator was broke. And I never knew in New York City when the elevator is broken in a train station, the fire department has to come and bring the people up. I didn't know this. So it's three people in a wheelchair standing by the elevator, and I was like, I'm waiting here with y'all. So I waited there with them for the fire department to see what was going to happen because I didn't know yet what was going to happen. The
Hmm.
fire department came. So I went home and I started looking up train stations, and I realized that a lot of train stations, specifically in Black and brown communities, do not have elevators. And when you don't have an elevator, that means that a person has to get off at the last stop that has an elevator, get the bus. And I'm like, that's an urban planning problem. And
Mm.
at that point, I hadn't been in planning school in like 3 or 4 years. So I was like, you know what? I need to go back to planning school. And I had a encouraging friend of mine who was like, why don't you just finish that degree as well? So that was we had this conversation at work maybe like a week before. Then that incident happened. So I went back to planning school. Um, when I was in Buffalo, I specialized in economic development. When I got to Hunter, I was more into housing because that was like really what was on the forefront in New York City: affordable housing, critiquing the mayor's affordable housing plan, so on and so forth. During my time at Hunter, I did an internship with 596 Acres where I did some community organizing around land access. And then I did a data collection project about city owned property that had been sold to developers. So that was like some work I did.
Hmm.
Later on in my time at Hunter, because the planning program is very long, even when you're transferring in credits.
Mm.
It's like 54 credits, which is long for a master's degree.
Oh wow.
I During that time, I also was working in real estate as a project manager at a real estate development firm and going to school full time. I did a studio. And that's when I got back into economic development. My core focus in my group was to focus on designated space, which is usually space that isn't designated for any type of use mainly. And that could be for a business, that could be a pool, that could be a private owned public space. So that's how I got back into thinking about economic development as a concentration post graduation. At the same time, it's always synergy. So at the same time,
Mhm.
SBS was advertising for their Neighborhood 360 fellowship. I was accepted into the fellowship. I worked with merchants on Knickerbocker Avenue. I literally had no budget. It was just me out there organizing with predominantly Spanish speaking businesses. It was very interesting. During my time there, I did a community cleanup. I did a small business resource fair. I did a ton of merchant engagement. I introduced businesses to each other that didn't know each other, who have been new and old business owners that didn't know each other. It was a very wonderful and great learning experience. After my time as a Neighborhood 360 fellow, I became a policy advisor and work because I also have a workforce development passion as well. So I became a policy advisor in the workforce development division at SBS. So, and then after that, now I'm the executive director of the Pitkin BID.
Wow. Can you say how much your life has aligned so far?
You know what? And it's so interesting because you never know how. And prior to that, like my background, I was a paralegal. I went to school. I wanted to be an attorney. I was in school
Wow.
for legal studies. So, but it's ironic how like my preparation in paralegal, like my first paralegal job was in immigration, and I did research at that job. I learned how to file in a way that I never knew how to file before. And I did a lot of research when I was in my master's program, all I did was research. So it was just like great preparation for the future. And you just never know what job is going to prepare you for your next steps. But yes, I did have a lot of alignment in my career. Some of it was unintentional, and some of it was hyper intentional. And it's just interesting how it all came to now I'm here at the Pitkin Avenue bid, ready to do what I was doing on Knickerbocker, but in a way that I could really do it, because now not only do I have a little bit of funds to do it, but I also am the executive director. And sometimes to hold vision in a place, you have to be in leadership.
That is very that's so true. That's really true. So let's talk about the role of the Picken Avenue bid, and how you are now envisioning it to be, because it has been around for quite some time, but
Since 1993.
since you are here, the vision is a little bit different, perhaps.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. The Pitkin Avenue bid has done some really great work. I definitely have done some great work. Has hosted a ton of community events, from their Easter egg hunt to their they did a holiday market last year. They've always done a tree lighting. They've done Pitkin Avenue summers with movies and just a lot of community facing events. During my tenure in the first fiscal year, my first priority is three simultaneous priorities, and it's sanitation, which is really getting our sanitation and our low level beautification, like that's like our tree pits, taken care of, making them aesthetically pleasing. And as we approach the fall, there won't I don't think we'll do any planting. I don't have it on my agenda to do planting. If we come up and get some free plants from any of the organizations that tend to give away free plants, I may do some planting, but really it's really just to get our tree pits weeded, cleaned out, possibly mulched, so that when the snow falls, we bloom. We're gonna plant daffodils as well. We're gonna bloom in the spring with beautiful tree pits. So it's tree pits, and then it's worrying about sanitation. Through COVID, one of the things that happened was DSNY reduced their pickup a little bit because of COVID. So I'm hoping that this fiscal year, going into the winter, that picks up, because it's we think about sanitation and we think about the one person littering, and it's really a complex system. It's a system of our private vendor. It's a commercial carting for the businesses. It's DSNY doing their residential pickups. We now have Pitkin Avenue is seeing a surge in residential on top of commercial, where the residential units have always existed, but they weren't occupied since the 50s. Like, they're going to be occupied now,
Right.
as residents change and displacement happens in other nearby neighborhoods. People are going to move into Brownsville more. They are going to live on those commercial corridors. They're going to live on top of those stores, and that creates another dynamic in the sanitation issue, in which commercial businesses have their commercial private carting that they pay for, and DSNY is supposed to pick up those residential pieces, but they are not always able to differentiate between the two. So that's like one of the things that we're trying to work on a system, so that our businesses can go ahead and do their commercial carting and not have to worry about paying extra for residential trash getting picked up with their commercial carting. And also so DSNY can pick up residential trash and not think it's commercial trash.
So I just want to just it's so interesting that you're talking about um trash and the beautification of the corridor. The one thing that I connected to immediately is the importance of wellness, right? So when you go to a space, right, when you're shopping, you don't want to see garbage or dark papers anywhere. And it just it makes me think about when we go, to other locations, that we do not see the amount of trash. And so, just like Picken Avenue, everyone knows about going to Picken Avenue to shop at whatever stores are still there. And there's also new stores that have opened up recently. But it's the importance to me that I'm connecting is that when you go to a space, like when you're entering into a storefront to conduct business, you don't want to go over trash. And that's like kind of like something that oftentimes we may not really think about
It's a big one.
until you go to someplace else and you don't see it at all. So I really appreciate you highlighting that.
Sanitation is my number one priority. My second, I mean, they're all number ones, but sanitation is at the forefront. My second really is the bid to business connections. I think over the years, the businesses, every time a new business enters the neighborhood, it's our priority to go to that business and explain to them who we are and what we can do for them and how they should connect with us. Even before I have a business that just rented a space. He hasn't opened yet. He reached out to me before he started doing anything. And it's a beautiful, and this is why bid to business connections are so important, because we are a direct line of access to the Department of Small Business Services.
Right.
The Department of Small Business Services has a team of people called compliance advisors that come out and have been trained from Department of Consumer Affairs, fire department. They have been trained to walk into businesses and tell them right on the spot, no fines. They're not an enforcement agency, but they can tell you, you need to light up your exit sign
Mhm.
because you can get a fine for that. You need to put a refund policy up because you can get a fine for that. And I had them come out. We had a business that just opened up, a waxing studio on Pitkin
Right.
Avenue. She just opened up. You can check her out on our social media, Pitkin Avenue. It's social media is Pitkin Avenue for Facebook and Pitkin Avenue Business District for Facebook and Pitkin Avenue for Instagram. And basically, you can check all our new businesses. We always post when they come to the corridor. You can check them out on our Instagram. But anyway, back to the compliance advisors. He called me before he's done anything. So he's already connected with a compliance advisor that's answering questions that he thought he was going to be able to do when his business opened. And she's like, no, you would have to do it this way. And that, you know how much money and time that saves a business, especially a new one? So I really appreciated him reaching out to us before he did anything in his business. And then again, we go out as soon as a business opens up on Pickin. We're there, business card, pamphlet, just letting them know who we are. I will go back just in case it may slip your mind because business owners are busy. So you have to go back and tell them who you are multiple times. You see, another thing that we do is in our vendors with our sanitation is graffiti removal.
Mhm.
I hadn't met this business yet, but I noticed that he needed some graffiti removed. So I introduced myself. I let him know that they're coming out to remove the graffiti. Once they removed the graffiti, which was a few days later, I went back to him and said, "See, this is what the bid does. Keeping them in a constant state of information, receiving information from you, and showing your results. I think is important when you're at a bid and you're supporting small businesses because it's hard to see the results and it's hard for businesses to quantify why you're here. What do you do for me? And I think always telling them and not telling them this is what I do for you, but showing them more importantly, this is what happens when you have a bid in your corridor. And my last and final for this fiscal year goal is marketing in our narrative. I think Pickin Avenue is like the heart of Brownsville, and it's hard for people to really, first of all, the negative connotation around Brownsville. That's the first thing, and then secondly, along with the negative connotation of Brownsville, there is a negative connotation of Pickin Avenue. So what I want to do is really showcase everything that the bid has done in the past, and we're going to continue to do in the future, and how that is beneficial to the community overall, especially the local economic development community, because that is specifically what we do. We are not, unfortunately, an all encompassing nonprofit. We are a nonprofit that works with small businesses, local entrepreneurs. We would like to bring more local entrepreneurs to storefronts on Pitkin Avenue because we believe at the bid is that is the best way to grow the corridor while keeping its cultural competency.
And that is the beauty about when you have small businesses that are from the community, because there are tons of small entrepreneurs who may not have the resources in the beginning to start us to be in a storefront. However, even connecting with the bids, local bids, can be beneficial in terms of resources that you mentioned. What are some of the other programs that support the storefronts and small businesses overall within the community?
One of my director of planning has a program that he built from the ground up, which is the New York Main Street program, in which businesses can be reimbursed for improving their storefronts. This is more of a, what I will say is that this program has twofold. It's definitely more of a property owner facing program, but there are some renting businesses like Tiera Mack that took advantage of this program, and she has a beautiful storefront and a new gate and all of the things that you need to have an aesthetically pleasing corridor, right? She has one of the most beautiful storefronts
Right. Yep.
on our corridor,
Yep.
and that came from the Main Street Grant Program. So I think the Main Street Grant Program is one. We do community cleanups. We're hosting two this year, one in the fall and one in the spring, usually on Earth Day in the spring. And we're looking at mid-October for the fall. And I'll have more information as we get closer to setting a date. Just
Mhm.
really trying to monitor the weather, the
Right.
daffodil program, just a bunch of stuff when you want to do a community cleanup.
Right.
Um, Again, we're having a small business resource fair that is going to take place on Thursday, September 23rd at Greg Jackson Center for Brownsville at 519 Rockaway, and it'll be 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And yeah, we really offer basically the most basic service right now that we offer is just connecting with us. Because when you connect with us, I can tell you things that we can do for you and we can connect you with. Like I have a business, he wants to start doing fresh foods and he wants to be connected with the fresh food program. Me being in a bed, I get the information to him. I let him know these are the people you need to contact. I have another business that wants to do customized training, which is a SBS program in their workforce development. And that's up to me to listen to what he's telling me, use my knowledge that I know of programs offered by the city, and connect them with those programs.
So when one so if one wants to open up a storefront on Pitkin Avenue, let's say I wanted to do I don't know, hair as an example, what would be the process of one to start, connecting with the bid to say I would like to open up a storefront?
We actually have a page. We actually do quarterly vacancy reports. So we have actually on our website, which is pickanavenue.nyc. Excuse me. Yes.
Yeah, I haven't scrolled in
Yes,
yesterday.
yes, yes. PicketAvenue.nyc. You go to our website and we do a quarterly vacancy report, and it shows everything that we have vacant in the square footage. What I'm speaking to businesses about in 2021 post COVID is you really need to think about when you're renting a space, how much do you need to sell per day per square foot? That is how you know if you need that space or not. Because I think a lot of businesses end up in spaces that are too big, end up in spaces that are too small, end up in spaces that are just not overall a good fit for their type of business. So I think that is like really should be in their business plan. So before you even call to Pick Avenue, you can call to Pick Avenue big, because I'm going to tell you this when you call us. You want a space on Pick Avenue? Can you sell this a much times this square foot to make sure that you have your rent money? And the next question is, are you interested in co-locating with another business? I think that is like coming to the future of what small businesses are going to look like. They're going to look like co-locating. They're going to look like, two or three businesses in one space. And I don't think it's anything wrong with that, because that takes when I first started organizing small business on Knickerbocker, and I knew this before that because I have family members who have small businesses, is that small business entrepreneurship looks like freedom to a lot of people. You would think that it's a lot of freedom, but in reality, you're working. If you have a storefront, forget about it. You're working 9 to 9 every day because you're trying to sell, especially if you don't, even if you own the building, you got to sell to pay the taxes, sell to pay the water. If you're renting, you need to be able to make that rent every month. So what does that look like? How do you give yourself as much freedom as possible while also being in a business and running a business the way that you want to? Some people want to have a small business and can't literally have a small business forget about all the systemic stuff, but we're going to talk about that in a minute. But like,
Mhm.
they really can't even have a true small business because they're in a space that's too big. So they're there all day. That's no way, to really live your life, right? You want to. So I'm really trying to push more merchants into co-location.
And so that that's
Lead them.
that's really
Lead them.
interesting because the model that I've been personally looking at, and you're right, being an entrepreneur is super dope and super amazing. Like, but it's
It
hard.
is.
And
It is.
I don't have a storefront. And I do that. This is my full-time thing that I do. I am 11375. I'm also someone's mama. Who and
That's
that's
a small business. That's
that's
all.
that's
That's a house manager.
that's my CEO, and she tells me with emphasis that I'm the CEO and you have to listen to me. So I just shrug my shoulders and just move on because that's what I
House
gotta
manager.
do. Yeah, she does it on to me all the time. But it's very interesting that you mentioned about the fundamentals of business planning before you actually step into having this storefront. It's great, but I also wanted to highlight what you talk about, the co-partnering, um, collaborating with other small businesses. It's almost like the WeWork model, right? Or other models where they have spaces where so you rent out a large space, but it's you have multiple small businesses or artists within that particular space. It's not abnormal. So hopefully
No.
you all are listening as a way to really think about within your business plans and how you can grow and scale your businesses through true collaboration. And there's absolutely nothing wrong
It's
with doing
nothing
that.
wrong with it. I don't. You know what's interesting? It's like this, and it's capitalism that makes us feel this way, right? This like survival of the fittest and last man standing. Like that's exhausting. That's exhausting. And I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend working with a business that's similar to yours, maybe a nail and a hair salon together. Maybe a nail, a hair salon, and a hair selling business all in
Mhm,
one with a makeup artist. That's a
mhm.
beautiful co-location, a waxing studio together. You know how much I always want to go to just one place to get all those services done, and I can't. So I spend 2 or 3 days on upkeep.
So for those small businesses, this is an
Like,
idea that's coming. Think about it.
that's and not just that, like even like I think what I love about Brooklyn, I mean I love Brooklyn, but what I truly love about Brooklyn, you go to a lot of small businesses in Brooklyn, you see that they're selling cake boy. The Jamaican restaurant is selling cake boy slices of cake. You go to I forget what it's called. One of the places, Bergen something. It's on
Mhm,
Bergen and Crown Heights. They're selling cake, slices of cake from Doc's. So Doc's has a spot and Cake Boy has a spot, but
mhm.
they make sure that their cake is in places where they don't have locations.
Right.
And I think that that's like just another form of co-locating. It's making, and that's what I love about Brooklyn is because people are working together to meet the end of. I love dessert, so I love going places, and especially a dessert that I know is good because I've already been to this. I've been to every bakery in Brooklyn. I swear I have. I really have. I've been to every bakery in Brooklyn from like Park Slope to Bed Side to like Sheepshead Bay. Like and I love bakeries in Astoria as well, but we're going to focus on Brooklyn today. Oh, I love bakeries, but anyway, yeah. I just think that that's the way that I would go about it. They could look at our quarterly vacancy report on our website and see, that there are spaces with rent prices advertised. I'm also really a big proponent of people working together and buying a building together. Like, I would love to see that during my time at Pitkin. I want to see some local entrepreneurs band together and buy a building together and have 3 or 4 businesses operating out of that space. To me, like that would be, if that happens during my time and I really want it to happen, I would be really ecstatic and I would be pleased and feel like I did the right thing while I was here.
And that is goals. That is how you create in economic growth, in my opinion, within when you are able to what's so interesting? Every time I talk or I coach, you know, businesses, specifically businesses of color, it is entrepreneurship is in our blood, right? And so it's when we are taking the risk to actually do it full time or even, develop, while you are working full time, it's not something that's not a part of our cultural history. It's really about, stepping back into those things that we may have forgotten. But it's definitely doable. I think about, places where, Black Wall Street was developed. And but that's not abnormal. So speaking
No.
that so reviving that is just something, bringing up, and putting a spin on history that, existed. So wanted to just move a little bit forward. Um, let's talk about legislation, because I know that there are um, a number of impacts that we've saw, particularly as we've been in this pandemic. Um, is there any legislation that you would recommend to be implemented to specifically support the Picken Avenue bid and businesses there?
I wouldn't even say legislation. And I wanna you said we was moving forward, but I think we should combine these last two things we were talking about. So it's a book called Collective Courage,
Mm,
written by Jessica Gordon. It's about African American cooperative economic thought and practice. Wonderful book. I was also just recently a Urban Design Forum fellow in the MWBE Worker Cooperative Fellowship, which spanned about 10 months. And we figured out, we worked, we researched, we put out a publication, which you can find on the Urban Design Forum's website. And it's all about how worker cooperatives could support MWBEs. I don't even think we should revisit a lot of legislation that could help support communities of color overall. But I think in the economic development forefront right now is one of the things that we can do is really support worker cooperatives. I think, and for people who don't know what worker cooperatives are, they are worker owner businesses. And it's not like you said, entrepreneurship is in our blood because it was the only way that we could make money.
mhm.
White businesses did not hire Black people. Black people had to start their own businesses and support their own communities. And a lot of people point to Black Wall Street, but if you really just look at Bed-Stuy is a great example. That's currently was in a resurgence of it, but gentrification happened, and now it's a lot of the businesses are having a hard time. Not the businesses that own their buildings, but the renter businesses are definitely having a super hard time. And I just think that you think about the what is the it just slipped my mind in Bed-Stuy, the it's a cooperative type of it was. I went to the Black Small Business Pro. It was like a Black history of small Black businesses in Brooklyn. It was at the Brooklyn Historical Society, and it was a wonderful, wonderful program. And they talked all about cooperative economics, and I think that is what we really should be gearing towards. And we don't need legislation to gear towards that.
Mm,
We can get together and start our own worker cooperative. Now, could it be more legislative friendly? Absolutely. Could there be more lawyers in New York State that are versed in understanding worker co-ops? Yes, but they do have a program in CUNY in which they have a clinic for worker cooperatives. So I think that is really what I'm pushing towards. Like I'm pushing towards one thing is communities banding together purchasing property that they can run businesses out of. And then secondly, I'm pushing towards worker owner cooperatives. Because again, that breeds into the flexibility of having a business. That's like you having your media company and it's you, a camera person, I don't know about media, so I guess a director, a
Sure,
director,
yeah.
you audio visual person, and not only are y'all doing the Brownsville Minute or your business 1175 11 what is it 11375
11375, yeah.
sorry
No problem.
11375 is the business, but you guys are also being able to, because you are all working together and y'all all putting your own equity, financial equity, and sweat equity into the
Mhm.
business. And everybody is the boss. Everyone's a decision maker. And don't get me wrong, that is difficult. Because I try to, it's interesting I'm saying this because I don't like hierarchy, even though I am the executive director. And I'm really trying to get my staff into I want us to be more like shared leadership
Mhm.
and self-managing, you know. And I think that that's really the way that the world should really be going overall. People are tired. People are tired of being exploited at work. I keep seeing people keep talking about no one wants to work because they're getting all this free money. The extra $600 got cut off months ago. People are not getting extra free money. They don't want to work because you don't pay enough.
Or you don't treat them well. How about that?
That too.
You don't treat them well.
So what does the world look like when we are all sharing and I also know what it's like to be in the leadership position and need to reach deadlines and trying to explain to people that are your reportees, like this has to get done so we can report this out or so we can do this or that. So what does it look like to me in my mind where everyone is sharing that same pressure to get things out
Mhm.
because they have as much to lose as you do or as much to gain as you do?
I
I
love
think
I love that.
I
I love
really do. I love worker owned cooperatives. I wish it was more of them. I wish I was working at one. I wish I was a part of one right now.
well,
But
you probably will could create one within a bid.
I hope so. I really hope to. That is definitely in the 3 to 5 year goals.
And so that would be so amazing to see. It's very interesting that you talk about, so within entrepreneurship, the challenges that one, even though you're at the bid, you do see and understand the perspective of what entrepreneurs go through in hiring and creating a culture that you want to see that's different is definitely a challenge. It's a beautiful thing once you have leveled those challenges in terms of how you want your business and your culture to run. Because I'm talking because I'm experiencing that right now. I just hired 4 people, and I I couldn't understand why am I so stressed out, like, because it's a different. You're no longer working by yourself. You are now expanding the vision that you want and projects that need to be done and completed for your clients. It's not just you anymore. So it's a whole layer of things. And it's very interesting that you brought that up. So I appreciate that.
Yes, it is. It's different, and I think that one of the things is why are you because managing expecting people to self-manage is a big endeavor. And I think on the opposite end from being an employee for a very long time is I think a lot of people get a lot of anxiety about meeting their boss's expectations, and communication could resolve that. When you ask your boss or your leader, this is how I always used to say, this is how I was thinking about doing this project. What are your thoughts? Are these aligned with your thoughts? Because that's two things. That's giving the leader the opportunity to know that you did some pre-thinking about it and that you're willing to put an idea forward, but also letting them know that if it doesn't align with how they want to see it done, that you're not married to it and you're willing to change.
Correct.
But that takes a lot of self-awareness and growth and maturity. And I think, you know, and it takes a place of just respect and order too, of they're the boss now. I may want to be the boss later. I'm not the boss now. So how do I learn as much as possible in this role and give as much as possible? Because the thing is that I always joke, I don't have to look for a job. I've been great at every job I've worked at. So I have people contact me all the time. Are you somewhere right now? Are you working somewhere right now? Everybody knows I'm here now, so I'm not getting those calls as frequently, but people still look for me to work with them because I did the right thing at a lot of places.
Mhm. And not only that, and connecting that to small businesses, like even with when you're creating your own culture and how you want to work with clients, that transitions over into your business. I know oftentimes we may not think that, but it really does. So yeah, I thoroughly appreciate that. So what does recovery look like for small businesses within Pitkin Avenue Bid?
Okay, so one of the things that's interesting about the Pitkin Avenue bid is that because we don't have a ton of restaurants, we did not see the fallout that a lot of Brooklyn saw from COVID. We have a lot of dry good retail businesses that were esteemed essential during the pandemic, so they stayed open. And
Mm,
because people were home, they shopped in their neighborhood. So quite a few of my businesses did better than they did prior to the pandemic because a lot of people were shopping locally. I think on Pitkin Avenue, the businesses that probably had the hardest time would be our hair salons, our nail shops, our barber shops. But honestly, they've been back running, packed, full of people since people have been allowed to get their hair and nails done. What else? What else would I say recovery looks like? I think recovery for Pitkin Avenue really looks like not just a COVID recovery, but a recovery from years of systemic disenfranchisement.
mm,
And
mhm.
I think one of the things that people need to understand is like, I'm speaking from a local economic development perspective, but we are not the only part of the community that was disenfranchised. We're talking about housing, we're talking about health and wellness. When you want a system to operate at its maximum capacity, that requires that every single part of the system be invested in equally or just as much. So if the government is only spending money on local economic development but ignoring health and wellness or ignoring food justice, we're not going to ever systemically prosper. One part of the Brownsville Pitkin, maybe Brownsville as a community as a whole may be doing well, but the other part may not be doing well because it's not having the same eyes on them that this other part, whether it's food justice, whether it's health and wellness, whether it's local economic development, whether it's housing. All of those things need to be invested in at the same time because they were divested in at the same time.
Totally agreed. That is, yeah, one of the things that when you think about being a Brownsville baby and you see the changes and you wonder why, now I know as an adult. I didn't understand it like as a child and as a teenager, but now I'm clear. Um, what type of current do you have any volunteer opportunities if one wanted to come out and support some of the cleanup efforts? Do you have any opportunities for available?
Absolutely. Well, when we do our community cleanup, prior to our community cleanup, we will, and from my understanding, it has always had a great turnout. Brownsville always shows up to help clean up Pitkin Avenue. So we will have more information on our website and on our social media when it comes close, when we set a date for the community cleanup. I think if anybody wants to volunteer on Pitkin Avenue, when you're walking down Pitkin Avenue, throw your trash in the litter box. We have 68 receptacles along Pitkin Avenue. There should be no garbage being thrown at the bus stop. That's the best way to volunteer is your day-to-day behavior on the corridor.
Mm,
Respecting your elders.
and it's
Making room for disabled folks when they're coming down the street in wheelchairs. I think that's what I'm asking of volunteers. Volunteer your individual self to do what's right every day. But we will have volunteer opportunities for the community cleanup. It will happen in October. Information coming soon.
okay, that is really great. So I wanted to, start wrap up because I actually want to have you come back because I
Okay.
think that there is some more, um, opportunity on an ongoing basis to be able to share community and information, but also specifically about small businesses. Um, I wanted to do just some wrap up and just kind of just get your thoughts, final thoughts about, any future goals, what's going to happen over the next 3 to 6 months from your perspective. And then we're going to wrap up what I call some fun, rapid fire questions that I always like to learn more about my guests.
Okay. No
So,
problem.
what's your favorite borough?
Brooklyn. Not even a question.
It's so funny. Every time I ask that question, people are like, Brooklyn. Well, how dare you ask?
Brooklyn, every single crevice of it. I love Brooklyn from downtown to Bedside to Brownsville to Sheepshead Bay, Bensonhurst. Love everything about Brooklyn.
What do you do in your downtime?
Oh my goodness. Currently I'm watching 90s TV sitcoms, Rock. Yeah, I'm watching Rock, binging Rock on BET Plus right now. And you will be surprised how relevant that show still is.
Mm, I haven't watched TV in quite a few months now. So
I
I
stopped watching TV for years and started watching it again during the pandemic. I
yeah.
watched Seinfeld and Living Single because I was so sad that New York was
Mm,
closed. And Seinfeld and Living Single brought me back to like, this is New York. It's gonna be fine.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I plan to watch some TV next week, but we'll see how that works out. What is the favorite thing that you like, so outside of like doing that in your downtime, like what is the favorite thing that you do to create wellness for yourself?
oh wow. Oh my goodness. Um, Create wellness for myself. It's a few things. One of them being I love Trader Joe's. I go to Trader Joe's often. That's like my happy place. That's my happy place. I love music, podcasts. I like to read. So like I call downtime when my brain isn't that active, but I'm finding myself during rock like writing notes about whatever, writing notes. So my brain is becoming active now while I'm watching TV. But podcasts I really love. And staying abreast in community discourse is something that I do to create wellness because it's something about being in community to me that makes me feel incredibly safe, even when community is experiencing a moment of chaos. When I know that chaos is happening, I don't feel stressed out about it. I feel at peace knowing that it happened, it's being resolved, it's gonna be resolved, and just knowing the things that led up to those type of chaotic events. It's like, okay, this is the root.
Mm,
We need to attack this root if we want to stop seeing this happen.
wow. Favorite food, pizza or burgers? If you had to choose.
Burger, lamb burger specifically from Chez Oscar on Malcolm X Boulevard.
That's a great plug.
That's my favorite burger.
So I know earlier that you mentioned that you do like sweets, but do you like smoothies or ice cream, or do you have a preference?
Da, 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 da. I drink smoothies to be healthy. I like ice cream from Van Leeuwen. I love Van Leeuwen ice cream. I love Ample Hills Creamery.
Ooh, I see if we meet up for brunch, we're gonna be in trouble because I
We
love
are.
I
I already
love
know where we going when we meet up.
I love sweets. Oh my goodness. So what is the legacy that you would like to leave specifically for your family?
Oh wow. I always say I want to be the person that my little cousins, nieces saw get up.
Mm,
No matter what happened, I got up. And I want my legacy to be entrenched in community. I do not want my legacy to be elitist, capitalistic, one man army legacy. I wanted to be this lady was entrenched in community. She was the grandmother to everyone. I want that to be my legacy. My legacy. And then for my family, I want them to know that there is value in community. Yeah.
and on that note, I'm just gonna close out the show because usually that is so powerful, like to hear that being stated, and I'm super glad that you had taken the time out of your busy schedule to come and check out the Brownsville Minute. So
No problem. I'm looking forward to coming back. I definitely want to come back and share more about the bid, share more opportunities. I will definitely keep you abreast on all of our events so that you can put them on your social media, anything that you have going on. I know that your live show is on our social media
Yeah.
already. So yeah, I'm very interested in continuing this relationship and being in Brownsville. I hope to be a homeowner in Brownsville sooner or later, um, and continue my tenure at the bid until I see all of the things going in the direction that they should go.
And so thank you for joining us. And so for if you want to reach out, um, follow Pitkin Avenue Bid. The website and Instagram and Facebook page is scrolling. But also check out the Pitkin Avenue Bid is located at 1572 Pitkin Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. Are you guys open physically now or
Definitely by appointment. Definitely by appointment. And I would even plug my work cell phone number. I don't mind people calling me. It's on my business card. It's on the website.
And so what we are going to do is put that information on the website, but wanted to also mention as well that we do have grants available for small businesses. Please check out the smallbusinessrecovery.com where you can access information. I think Tiera came back.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. But yes, for 646-420-7964. Call me. I'm always willing to meet, usually between 9 and 11. I love to meet people at Dennis's on Pitkin Avenue to eat breakfast. It's a beautiful place at price point, delicious food. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to meeting with more people in the community and talking economic development.
So thank you so much for your time. I am going to say so long to you.
Yes.
Please again check out the Pitkin Avenue Big, like, follow on all social media platforms. And again, if you want to meet Miss Mack in person, please make sure that you schedule an appointment because we still are in the pandemic, but we are also still available to provide support and services to small businesses. So thank you so much. I look forward to talking with you again. Take good care.
Yes, thank you so much. Talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye.
So we have an opportunity again to be able to connect locally with our local Pitkin Avenue business improvement districts. It is really exciting to have a new executive director in place to be able to share new goals, new visions for the Pitkin Avenue bid. And one thing that remains consistent is that at the community level, we all are responsible really for our space. And so I wanted to share a number of resources that we do have available. One, the Small Business Resource Network mentioned this before. The senior director was on the Minute. On the previous episodes, Mr. Deshaun Mars has offered additional support for small businesses. So please make sure that you check this out. These are free services that are available at no cost to you as a small business. I also mentioned that we have awareness that there are grants available between $5 and $25,000 that are now available through the New York State Empire Development's COVID-19 Pandemic Small Business Recovery Grant. So again, there are requirements. I always say this, make sure that you follow the requirements in order for you to take advantages of the grants that are there. Also, I am a business coach. However, you can book me through SCORE. Check out the information there. I'm at www.score.org under mentors, and you can find me, Anita Pierce. If you cannot afford my services, you can book me through SCORE. And the SBA has supported SCORE in order to be able to help you, the entrepreneur, with consulting services and to help you grow and scale your business. And you can look for me. I am available there. And so I want to thank you again for joining the Brownsville Minute. It is really exciting when we have established partnerships and relationships with those within the community. And so we look forward to seeing you again. Join us on the next episode. Please like, share, and follow the Brownsville Minute on Facebook and on YouTube. We're also on Instagram as well. Thank you so much for joining. Bye bye.